What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Unscripted Live here on the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers, and joining me to talk about some NFL 2023 trade deadline predictions. As always, Jay McClellan. What's up, my friend?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing okay.
Hanging in.
Everything is stabilized.
All right. Well, hey, that's about all we can ask for. And our stat guy, Dustin Reese. What's up, man?
Not much. It's hard to believe that we are almost to the halfway point of the NFL season already, which would be the trade deadline.
We are. And just a reminder for folks out there, the trade deadline for this year falls on Halloween, October 31st, just about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last year, there were 10 deals executed in the week leading up to the deadline. So this is why we're doing our predictions here for people who could be getting traded. It's going to be fun to see. And we are looking forward to see who all we have. We're going to go one by one. And with that being said, Dustin, give us who you have listed as being the first player getting traded. Go ahead.
I think Derrick Henry is a legitimate option this year.
Mm.
You kind of look at the situation that Titans are in right now. They were kind of the team to be in the AFC South for a good 4 or 5 years under Mike Vrabel, and then really fell apart the second half of the season last year where they lost 7 games in a row. Granted, Derrick Henry was hurt at that point last year, and Ryan Tannehill ended up getting hurt, so they had to go with Malik Willis towards the end of the year. But fast forward to this year, Jacksonville is still Jacksonville. They won the division last year. The Colts appear to be improving a lot quicker than people thought. Houston seems to be a lot better than people thought they were going to be this year. And now you have the Titans, who you can make a case are the worst team in that division right now. You have Will Levis and Malik Willis behind Ryan Tannehill, who's in the final year of his contract this year. You really don't know what your answer is going to be at quarterback at this point. And if you look at that team, the only player that really has any significant value at this point is Derrick Henry. Granted, he hasn't looked like the Derrick Henry of old, and I think a lot of that has to do with the foot injury that he had last year, the surgery that he had last year. But you still put him on a good team with a good offensive line, and he's going to produce. And one team that I think could make a run for him is Baltimore. You put him with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, knowing that J.K. Dobbins is out for the year. Him and Lamar Jackson together, I think, would be a nightmare for a lot of teams in the AFC and the NFL in general. And Derrick Henry deserves to be on a team that's going to contend, especially when you look at what he's done for the Titans and just how productive he's been since he's been in the NFL.
All right. Jay, who do you have moving away from their team?
Yeah, I also have Derek Barnett, the edge rusher, or he's actually a rotational guy, or he can be used as a rotational guy out there in Philly. I think Philly has just a lot of really good edge rushers there, so I think he's kind of getting buried down. So he only plays every now and again. So he was a 2017 first round pick, so he's got some good pedigree there. He's got 21 and a half sacks on his resume, but yet since 2020, he has yet to eclipse 5 sacks for the season. So I think it looks like he's already given his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, carte blanche to go out and find him a team for which he can actually be a participant and actually, be on the field and actually contributing. So with that, and because he's buried down the depth chart, that's why I have him leaving the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, who does he go to? Well, you got Gannon out there in the Cardinals. He's familiar with them. So it'd be a very easy transition for Barnett to go from the Eagles to the Cardinals, which actually has interest in him, which actually wants him. And the Colts need an edge rusher. Let's be honest. They need a lot of things, but we'll start with edge rusher, right? And we'll work from there. So I think for those reasons, I got Barnett going to the Cardinals.
All right. For me, I'm picking your team here, Dustin. I am going on the defense with Danielle Hunter. Currently tied for the lead in sacks with Minnesota. He's got 8 on the year. Like you mentioned, the Vikings ain't really doing too hot this year, and he's going to get that money. He's going to get paid after this season. He's only on a 1-year deal. So it'll be a rental of sorts, but I feel like if Minnesota can trade him to, let's be honest, a contending team, someone who needs that kind of push going into the playoffs later on this year, I mean, obviously that's going to help out your front line, and more than likely he'll get that money in coming into the next season in 2024. So that being said, that is my choice there with Danielle Hunter. All right, Dustin, who you got next up on the list, my friend?
I'm going to say Mac Jones. I think the ship has pretty much run its course in New England with Mac Jones, and they're starting to realize that he's not the answer. They're also starting to realize that Bailey Zappi might not be the answer, or Malik Cunningham might not be the answer, or anything like that. In terms of who's going to take Mac Jones, that's kind of where the bigger question would be. One team that I'm going to throw out there, Logan, is your Raiders. And the main reason for that is the best season that Mac Jones ever had was when Josh McDaniels was his offensive coordinator during his rookie year. I mean, maybe there's something to be said about that. Maybe Mac Jones is more comfortable in that system. And at the same time, you could see Jimmy Garoppolo then go back to New England where his career started, where he had his first opportunity to start before they traded him over to San Francisco. Another location that I could see Mac Jones going to is Chicago. I think the Patriots are kind of upset that they did not draft Justin Fields when they had a chance to. I know the Patriots were the one team that was really high on Justin Fields heading into that draft, and then the Bears ended up trading up from 14 to 11, and the Patriots picked 12. And the Bears took Justin Fields at 11, so a lot of people felt that if the Bears don't trade up, the Patriots are going to take Fields at number 12. I could easily see the Bears trading Mac Jones to Chicago for Justin Fields, and that puts the Bears back in the position where if they end up getting the number 1 pick next year, then they just go and draft Caleb Williams as it is.
All right. Jay, who's next up on your list?
Yeah, mine is Mike Evans. At the beginning of the year, he basically gave them a deadline, and I think the deadline was actually game 1 of, hey, either get me a deal done, get me an extension, or I'm leaving. And, he's leaving. I don't think they got an extension done with him, so it looks like he's probably going to be leaving next year anyway. Again, because he set that deadline and the Bucs haven't met it, I have him leaving regardless. But I think the Bucs are going to be smart and try to at least get rid of him. But I think at this point, I think the best they can get is a 5th rounder for him. So, but even a 5th rounder is better than nothing. So if I'm them, I'm definitely looking to get rid of Mike Evans. I say Mac. I guess I have Mac Jones in my mind. But yeah, Mike Evans. I think the Patriots could be an Atlanta spot because they need a true number 1 wide receiver, which they still do not really have. You can make the argument for Juju, but I don't really care for Juju as a number 1. You can make the argument for Parker, but again, I don't see either one of them as true number 1. So I think Mike Evans is definitely a true number 1. So I would say the Patriots. The Giants is another team that clearly has no direction at wide receiver. So I think Mike Evans could definitely give him a direction at wide receiver. Nothing else is going to make Daniel Jones look better than what he does. We all know how bad Daniel Jones looks. I think if Tampa continues to slide, which I do expect them to take some more losses, I would look for them to try to get whatever they can from Mike Evans and go to a rebuild mode at this point. So I got Mike Evans for those reasons, either the Patriots or the Giants, and I really think the Giants and Dable would be the best fit.
All right, for me, I am going to go with Jerry Jeudy out in Denver. A guy who had a lot of potential, has just not done anything, Jay. You look at his stats, right? First year was in 2020. 3 touchdowns, 856. Not too bad, right? For a rookie season, that's not awful. And then it's just kind of stagnated. The next year, played in 10 games. I think that was the year he got hurt a little bit. So 467, no touchdowns then. This past year in 22, had a career high in yards with 972. Also career high in catches with 67. Played in 15 games. Got 6 touchdowns with Russ. But, Jay, this year he's off to a very, very slow start. He's got 20 catches on the year for only 222 yards. I think that's second on his team. And he hasn't found pay dirt once. So he seems like just kind of the odd man out there. It seems like they've leaned more towards Courtland Sutton as their primary number 1 pick, or their number 1 option, I should say. But, he's 24, right? He's still got a lot of potential. He's a young guy. He's under contract this year, next year, and I believe next year, I believe, is a 5th-year option. I don't know if that's team or player option, but this, we'll see what happens because the money's going up. So his base salary this year, Jay, is only about $2 million. Next year, if he opts in, it's going to be about close to 13. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting. But I don't know if Jerry Jeudy is going to be Denver Bronco for a whole lot longer. It does not appear that way, but we'll see what happens because, God, that is probably. We'll do another episode on this one, Jay, but just probably the midway point of the season, just the most disappointing teams. And you got to think Denver's got to be number one, if not number two, or 1A, 1B, just with how bad it's been. So I think Jerry Judy's going to be gone, Jay. I don't know where he's going to go. They won't get a whole lot for him, I don't think. Like you put Mike Evans with like a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I think that's based on years in the league is where I think they get
I got you. And for me, I mean, I don't know what they could really get for Jude. I mean, my God, they gave up a 1st-round pick for Chase. Or I forget who it was. It was Chicago gave up a 1st-round pick for Chase Claypool, and he's no longer with the team already. So I don't think Judy's going to get a whole lot, but I don't think he'll be in Denver for a whole lot longer. All right, Dustin, who's your final guy who's going to be leaving their team?
My final guy is Kirk Cousins. Obviously, kind of the same reasons you said about Danielle Hunter, that Minnesota Vikings are pretty much doing the exact opposite that they did last year. They were 11-0 in 1-score games this year, and now they are sitting at 1-4 in 1-score games this year. So the script is kind of flipped. You don't have Justin Jefferson for a minimum 4 weeks, and according to doctors, the injury that he sustained tends to give you a 6 to 8 week recovery time. If that's the case, you're probably going to be out of the playoff picture by the time he comes back. Cousins is in the final year of his deal. Trade him while you can and just restart everything next draft. 3 places that I think Cousins might end up. Obviously, the most obvious place to me is the Jets. They need a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is going to try his best to come back this season, which realistically, I don't see it being very possible. And if he does, it might be just for the playoffs, which if that's the case, that's the case. The Jets are finding ways to win right now with Zach Wilson, but Cousins is better than Zach Wilson. And if you put Cousins in that system with how good of a defense the Jets have, that would be the first time in Cousins' career that he has a top 10 defense to work with. I think Minnesota could very easily get a 1st-round pick in exchange for him or a 2nd-round pick and potentially maybe a role player in return. Another team that I looked at Cousins possibly going to is Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of in that position in the NFC South where Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, and Derek Carr are in that division with Desmond Ridder. Nobody knows what Bryce Young's going to become yet. I think everyone kind of knows what Baker Mayfield and what Derek Carr are at this point in their career. You put Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, he's instantly the best quarterback in that division. He instantly has the best running game in that division with Tristan Algier and Bijan Robinson, and they have an improving defense. And Atlanta probably becomes the favorite in the NFC South at that point, just because they would have the best quarterback in the division. And the last destination might be an ironic one, but I would not be surprised at all to see Cousins traded back to Washington. And the reason why I say that is for what you mentioned, Logan. You said Danielle Hunter could be on the way out of Minnesota. If Danielle Hunter goes, that is Minnesota's best pass rusher that's leaving Minnesota. Why not trade Cousins to Washington for Chase Young? You replace one good pass rusher in Danielle Hunter with another young pass rusher in Chase Young, who still technically has the franchise tag and basically 2 franchise tags if you want to put it on him. So you would have him at least locked up for next year and potentially the year after that. Washington would get a veteran quarterback, and they're kind of going to be right in the thick of it too because they've struggled offensively, but yet Washington is not out of this at all yet.
That's true. That's a good point. Very good point. Interesting trade there. Kirk Cousins for Chase Young. That is okay, that could be something. Jay, who do you have your final player leaving their team for the trade deadline?
Let me just give kudos to the delusional that anybody that thinks that Washington is not out of it. They were out of it in preseason, but that's okay. Hey, sometimes you just gotta have faith, and not that what's that guy saw, man? George Michael kind of faith. Like you gotta have like real faith, and that's real faith, not that George Michael faith. I'm just saying. God, if you know, you know.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'll behave. I promise. Don't kick me off the show just yet. I got Chase Young, man. I got Chase Young as my guy, which actually kind of works out for what Dustin was saying. If they want to get rid of Kirk Cousins, and I believe that the Washington Redskins absolutely want to get rid of Chase Young to the point where they declined his 5th-year option. Now, the first two guys I gave you, Barnett and Evans, those were guys themselves saying, "Hey, look, either play me, pay me, or get me out of here." Chase Young, it's the reverse. It's the team saying, "Yo, Chase, we done, baby. We're not going to give you that 5th-year option. Just go on ahead and do what you got to do, baby." So for those reasons alone, and obviously, let's be honest, the front 7, or at least the front 4, are pretty solidified over there in Washington anyways, right? With Montez Sweat and Allen and Payne and company. So kind of like Young is kind of almost odd man out, not because he's not great, but he just hasn't had no playing time. And these other guys have played together. They got chemistry. They know what each other does. So, sometimes you don't really want to disrupt that, even though the kind of talent that Chase Young has. He's also very injury prone. So for those reasons, I would say possibly I would say maybe the Ravens. They kind of need a rusher since Houston and Campbell left in the offseason. That kind of gives them a void there. So I would say the Ravens would be the best choice for them to go to. The second one would be the Bears. I think, the Bears have been adding a lot of new pieces to that team. And I know their defense still needs to continue to add pieces. Chase Young could probably thrive over there, especially with Eberflus as a defensive kind of guy. So, but at the end of the day, that Kirk Cousins thing does sound pretty good over there in Minnesota. So I'm actually going to put Minnesota in there as a third team. So I got Ravens, Minnesota, and Chicago as the 3 landing spots to get Chase Young services next year or this year.
Yeah. For me, my final guy I got leaving is Brian Burns with the Carolina Panthers. What more needs to be said? They've not won a game this year. He's their best player, probably on, you can say, arguably both sides of the ball. He's 25. He's had a really good year so far, even on a crappy team. And he does not have an option. He's saying, he's an unrestricted free agent after this. So he is probably going to be someone who's gone if the Panthers are smart, if they want to stockpile draft picks, if they want to get maybe some young players. I would definitely put him out there and see what I can get, because obviously this season's a wash. You're not doing anything. You're not getting a wild card. You're not going to the playoffs. So what's the point of having someone on your team with talent, with value, just keeping them around for them to just probably more than likely up and leave if you don't trade them? So that's my final selection there is Brian Burns. All right, final thoughts, everyone, on this trade deadline. Dustin, go right ahead.
It's not really final thoughts, but I got some breaking news for Jay that I put in the private chat because it has to do with his Houston Rockets.
Oh, go ahead.
Kevin Porter Jr. has been traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder and will be waived by the Thunder. The Rockets are receiving Victor Oladipo and Jeremiah Robinson Earl.
We're getting Oladipo back. God damn.
Welcome. Well, hey, he's back, Jay. He's back. So, wow, you're telling me, because I'm looking at just the full trade breakdown here, because there's a lot of picks involved, obviously. You're telling me that the Thunder are getting someone for picks? Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed that?
Well, do they even get picks? I don't think they got picks.
No, they're getting picks because they're gonna cut Porter.
They're gonna cut Porter, and then they get like some picks that haven't been like announced.
The Thunder are getting a 27 second round pick from Minnesota and a 28 second round pick from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got you.
I think what happened is Houston said, "Look, eat this contract for us, and we'll give you some picks." And obviously, they don't want nothing to do with him since he probably isn't going to play this year. He got some legal issues. The Thunder will have to pay these close to $17 or $17 million guarantee left on his contract.
$17. I wish it was $17.
So, oh my God! So here's a stat, Dustin, that you'll enjoy.
Oh, you're giving me a stat?
I am.
Wow.
OKC has 15 first-round picks and 22 second-round picks over the next 7 seasons.
Yeah, I saw that the other day where they literally could cut every single person on their roster
and draft a new team
and draft a brand new team.
We've never seen nothing like this before.
But here's my thought on that though. Now that you said that,
Yeah,
how many of those picks do you realistically think they're going to keep?
you don't need a whole lot of them.
Well, no, I'm not even saying that because if they get to a point where obviously they have
Shy,
and they have Chet Holmgren
Chet, yeah.
and some other pieces, let's just say Oklahoma City takes a significant step forward this year and maybe does not make the playoffs this year, but kind of finds their way like to the play-in round or just missing the play-in round.
Yeah.
You get to the next offseason, you can start trading away some of those pieces for assets, some of those draft picks for assets, and all of a sudden you go from having 15, 22 draft picks down to 6, but even 6 draft picks the next
quality
plus bringing in assets is going to make you a team for sustained success because that's exactly what they did when they had Harden, Durant, and Westbrook in the early years. They traded away their picks to get those 3 guys, but they still had another 5 or 6 picks for the next 4 or 5 years on top of the draft picks that they were going to earn based on their season play.
That's true. And I'll say this and we'll wrap things up here, fellas. But if the OKC Thunder can pull this off right, if they can manage their picks, who they acquire, I mean, this could be something dangerous. I mean, they could, like you said, they've already stockpiled all these draft picks. And I mean, if we see that a team who's got a few good players is starting to struggle on maybe the lower end, I mean, I think OKC is right there for prime pickings for whoever gets them. And that is dangerous because, man, like you said, they got a very young team already. But now that you got all these assets you can trade away, whether it's players or all these thousands of draft picks, I mean, that is something to definitely be on the watch out for in this upcoming season, as well as in the future season. So we'll see what happens. But as always, James. Oh, what's up, Jay? Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't get to get my final thought.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
My final thought is this. How great would it be? You know, Logan, when the city wants something done, they put out a referendum, they put out a vote to the people, you vote on it, and if it gets passed, then the city will enact that, right?
Yep.
Well, I honestly think the city, anytime you change ownership, the citizens should get a say-so in it.
Okay.
We should be able to go do a vote, and we should be able to vote what ownership group takes over our team.
That's fair. And
by that same token, Roger Goodell? He's still the guy,
NFL?
Right? Yeah. I'm sorry, I get all their names mixed up. Tagliabue, Goodell, so many people. Roger Goodell, can we pose an emporium where maybe you let the citizens reject an ownership group, and maybe we can, for example, I hate Jerry Jones. Is there a way that we can hold a vote for the citizens to be able to vote Jerry Jones out of the Cowboys and bring another ownership group in that we elect?
I mean, you probably could, but the problem with that is Jerry Jones gives Roger Goodell so much money that that's probably the one owner. That's probably the one that Roger Goodell would never move on from.
Hey, Dustin. Hey, nobody asked you. Don't rain on my parade and my final thoughts.
Jay's got a lot of feelings tonight.
That's all I have. I love you.
All right. Well, guys, as always, appreciate you coming on. It's always a fun time talking trade deadlines and a little bit of NBA breaking news as well. That's just how it goes here. Jay McLovin, Dustin Reese. I've been your host, producer, Logan Landers. Enjoy weekends, everyone. We'll talk.